Air New Zealand grounds aircraft. So what are the reasons? What happened? The most recent airline to have temporarily parked 3 Boeing 787s is Air New Zealand. Let's talk about it and find out the main reasons. The Boeing 787-9 planes used by Air New Zealand have been in 2 accidents in the past week. Both of these accidents forced the planes to stay on the ground. Flight NZ99 left Auckland for Tokyo Narita on December 5th, but a little more than half an hour after it left, it turned around and went back to New Zealand. When the flight deck told the pilot that one of the 2 engines was having trouble, the pilot decided to turn off the other engine as a safety measure. Flight Radar 24 says that the trip was flown by Air New Zealand's first 787-9, which was given the registration number ZKNZE and was delivered in June of 2014. During the plane's climb to cruising height, a small turbine blade on the left side of the Rolls-Royce Trent 1000 engine came loose. This caused a piece of the turbine blade to break off and fall into the plane's engine, where it hurt other parts. The next day, another flight called NZ30, which was a Boeing 787-9, ZKNZF, and went from Auckland to Buenos Aires and took 11 hours, also had an engine problem soon after taking off. Because of this, the plane had to turn around and fly back to New Zealand, even though this engine did not need to be turned off during the trip. So why were there cancellations? Let's get down to it now. Because of these 2 engine problems, Air New Zealand had to delay a number of flights that were supposed to happen in the next few weeks, and 2 of its 11 787s had to stay on the ground. Rolls-Royce, which makes engines for the Auckland-based airline, says the problems are caused by the fact that the Trent 1000 engines the airline uses will need repair sooner than was expected. Because both of these things happened, the Transport Accident Investigation Commission, or TAIC, has started to look into them. The company is working with the airline, Rolls-Royce, as well as the Civil Aviation Authority, or CAA, and the Federal Aviation Administration, or FAA, to figure out what happened in both cases. Jane Mears, the head of the TAIC, said, "Right now, our investigation team is gathering and reviewing aircraft records, including information from recorders. They are also doing preliminary checks on the engines and talking to company representatives and the flight crew." Rolls-Royce just said that nearly 200 Trent 1000 engines will need new metal turbine blades, which are a part of the engine that tends to rust. Several companies, including Air New Zealand, have had trouble getting enough planes because they didn't have enough spare engines. There are more and more things to worry about. In the summer of 2016, the first airline to have trouble with Rolls-Royce engines was All Nippon Airways, which is based in Japan. In 2016, these things went wrong. Virgin Atlantic had to stop more 787s recently for the same reasons. Reuters says that the airline is working on hiring up to 4 Airbus A330s starting in March of the following year, for up to a year, to help make up for the lack of planes in its fleet. Even though the company had to park a lot of 787s, it has been able to keep all of its flights on time because of Delta Airlines. Delta Airlines owns 49% of the British airline, and some of its trips to Atlanta and New York JFK are run by Delta. As a result of the British turbofan engine, British Airways is also having trouble. During the Christmas season, the airline is doing urgent preventative checks on its 787 aircraft. Because of this, the airline is changing its flying schedule. Several of the airline's trips, including those to Doha, San Jose, and Washington Dulles, have already been canceled, and the problems are likely to last until January. The Trent 1010 is a newer version of Rolls-Royce's 787 engine that was just released not too long ago. This improved version uses less fuel than the engines that the company sells to planes right now, by more than 2%. This brand new engine has also been made better, so that it doesn't have any of the problems that Trent 1000s from the past have had. Air New Zealand has 2 787s in its fleet right now, and both of them have the newer engines. Even though some of Air New Zealand's planes won't be able to fly for an undetermined amount of time, the company is looking at all of its options, including renting a few planes. This would be done to make sure that it can keep running all of the flights on its plan and not have to keep canceling flights. For now, a flight that was supposed to leave for Houston for Osaka on December 8th and another that was supposed to leave Houston for Osaka on December 9th have been canceled. There is not enough power. Since there aren't enough Pratt & Whitney engines for Airbus A320neo flights anywhere in the world, Air New Zealand has had to stop 2 of its planes. The affected planes are used for both short-distance domestic flights and short-distance international flights to Australia and the Pacific area. According to Stuff Travel, the airline is having trouble getting enough engines, even though it has 32 engines, 4 spares, and 3 options to hire engines. Brett Daly, Air New Zealand's Group General Manager of Engineering and Maintenance, said, "Basically, we don't have enough engines. For every user in every part of the world, both planned and unplanned removals of engines are happening at the same time. What we thought would be a problem until June or July is probably going to be a problem until the end of the year." One of the 2 grounded planes is a brand new A321neo that was set up by the carrier to be used only in the United States. Air New Zealand, however, has taken the engines off of these stopped planes and put them on other planes that are ready to fly overseas. This has given them more options for where to put their troops. How many passengers is this going to affect? Even though the event has affected thousands of customers, the airline is confident that most of the fallout can be taken care of. Jeremy O'Brien, the airline's general manager of short haul, told Stuff Travel that of the 147,000 customers who were affected, 143,000 will have their flights moved to the same day, and most of them are within 60 to 90 minutes. But the flights for about 4,000 people will be delayed by 1 day, and the flights for about 300 people will be delayed by 2 days. Air New Zealand is thinking about giving passengers a refund if their planes are significantly late and they miss important events like weddings because of it. O'Brien says that the changes to the flight schedule give managers the chance to juggle the type of aircraft and the routes they fly to make up for as much of the capacity that was lost when these 2 aircraft were on the ground. This is a global problem. It needs to be addressed as soon as possible. Because there are not enough Pratt & Whitney engines for Airbus planes, it affects more than just Air New Zealand. Even though 2 of its planes are having technical problems right now, the airline is still in a better situation than a large number of other businesses around the world. India's Go First's financial situation has gotten worse because more than half of its fleet has had to be stopped because of the same problem. Air Baltic is one of the many businesses that are having trouble right now, because they don't have enough planes. In an interview with Simple Flying, Martin Gauss, the CEO of the company, said that he thought the problem would be around until 2025. What do you think about this? That was all for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. Stay tuned for more interesting information.